And I think if we realize, like, when you shake away a lot of the things that like are variables that change, you would see like we're all so close to each other and we're all so much more alike and we're all so connected.
Welcome to another episode of At the Podium with Manuel Amezcua. This morning, I am so amped up to have the youngest guest I've ever hosted on our podcast, my very good friend, just somebody who's become very, very important to me personally, beyond the professional relationship, Demetrius Harmon. And I call him Meech. So I checked in with him before we started this discussion to make sure that I could call him Meech the entire time. And so Demetrius Harmon will be known as Meech the rest of this morning. He's an actor. He's a writer. He's a poet. He's a creative director. He's the founder of You Matter and You Matter University. I'm rocking his hoodie this morning. My boy Meech, welcome to the show. I'm glad you could be with me.
Thank you for having me. You know, it's funny that you have on my hoodie and I don't have on my hoodie, but it's an early morning and I don't typically do these, but you know, we make it work for many.
And Meech and I were chuckling on two quick topics. I'm walking into the firm, and you all know I'm the steward and team captain to a very meaningful financial planning and financial services firm in the great state of Michigan. And I'm walking into the firm this morning with a hoodie on, and everyone is like doing a double take on, is he all right? Number two, though, I get on this call with him and he's got headphones on. And I look at my guy, Chad Miles. Chad, one of the most brilliant creative directors and creative guys I've ever been around in my life. And I'm like, Chad, why don't I have headphones? And Meech, what did you say?
I said, you should have headphones. You're a grown man. Why don't you have why don't you have headphones? And that was in the email of like, make sure you have headphones. And I was like, all right, cool. And I just grabbed one of the numerous headphones that I have.
I don't even know, man. I don't even know, but you are so much cooler than I am. And you know, I'm living through you right now. So look, we got to get started the right way. Every conversation at the podium, we've got to run you through 4 quick questions. Number 1, what is your favorite color?
Blue.
I love you. What's your favorite afternoon snack?
Jason Tatum Ruffles. They're flaming hot barbecue. Or pickles, like dill pickles.
Love it. Jackie Kuhn, did you hear that? Meech loves pickles. Jackie's my dear friend. She cans pickles. She's a genius at it, and she always gifts us some a couple times a year. Number 3.
I think I have like a liter of pickles.
No, you don't.
I will send you a picture of it when I get home. I promise I have like a liter. Like I have 2 of them. It's not a liter, it's a gallon. I have a gallon of pickles.
I believe you. Number 3, favorite childhood superhero.
I think Spider-Man was my favorite childhood superhero. I had him on a lot of cakes.
Love
cakes.
it.
But does Scooby-Doo count? He's not super.
Everybody counts.
Yes, Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo is definitely, and if that counts, Scooby-Oo.
Down. First time I heard that. I love it. 4th, last question. So everyone's got either a soundtrack or a record or a specific track that they love or artist. Mm-hmm. Mine has forever been Cypress Hill when they released Skull and Bones in 2000. And they came out with the track Rock Superstar because I think it speaks to any child that dreams big and has aspirations in their life that they're willing to work hard for. So that's mine. And so what's yours?
Mine is Earn by Childish Gambino.
What?
Yeah.
Say more.
It's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard in my life.
Explain it.
Oh my God. Let me look up the lyrics. But that whole album, he made an album called Because of the Internet. And I discovered Childish Gambino when I was like moving into high school. And that's when he was like moving from being a writer on 30 Rock and acting in Community.
Oh, yeah.
And he left that and being a comedian, being an actor, he started like rapping, and everybody was like, can't rap. And he was singing, and everybody's like, he can't sing. So like the first couple of tapes, his voice is like, and the first album, his voice is like, and then the second one, he dropped so many songs where he just like singing so beautifully. But that part of the that song, he wrote a screenplay for the album. And so if you read the screenplay and you play certain songs, as you're reading the screenplay, it matches to like the duality of it being an album, but it also matching to like the score of a movie. And I think the part which in that song is being played, the kid is like remembering his father, like his father who passed away, who he used to like be scared of. He's like, in a part of the lyric, he says like, "Tell him I'm not afraid of him," and it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful song.
That's good. And why does that hit for you?
I think just at that time frame, that was the first concert I went to.
Yeah. And
when he started singing that, I'd never been to a concert before, like I said, prior to that time, but it was loud the entire time. I always sing every lyric. But when he started singing that, there was no lights, there was no phones up. It was just quiet. And like for a moment, I'm like, oh, this is what it feels like to touch people. Like to where no one's talking, no one's doing anything, they're just listening.
Yeah.
A room full of thousands of people are just listening to you.
You just made me think of something. We often speak about the power of intentionality. And my family, I mean, Samantha oftentimes challenges me with being incapable of shutting my brain off and really being in the moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing that's what's being in the moment, must have felt like.
Yeah, most definitely. Like, I don't even think I have any photos of that day. I have one video that my brother recorded of me and my best friend, like rapping the music. And like that.
You're so dialed in.
You're so locked in, and it's like, I never forget that day. I remember everything about it, I remember the outfit I wore, I remember everything, so it's just like, that day was crazy. But that song, that album, like, is like a soundtrack to my life. I can like live in that album.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
So let me, your Instagram bio. I'm like, I love it. Aside from your, again, we've got to actually have that cook off. Because I'm not 100% certain that we're at the same level, if you know what I mean, of cooking.
Yeah, I know you've just been doing it longer, but it's concerning. It's concerning for you of how I've surpassed you or something.
You're a bad friend. You're a bad friend. Just because I got 20 on you. Hey, so it says, I've no idea what I'm doing. Watch me figure it out.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of figuring it out. That's all we are ever doing, regardless of like who you are, what you come from, or what you believe in. Like at the end of the day, you're just figuring out your place in this world, and that's forever changing. At some point my bio was like YouTuber, yada yada yada, and it's like, oh, I don't do that anymore. Wow.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm in this limbo right now of like, oh, I really love cooking. Do I want to make a cooking book? Do I be a YouTube cooker? Do I want to have a cooking channel? Oh, I really like reading books. Do I want to start a library? Like, and I have all these interests, and it's like, well, what am I? And it's like, well, I'm just Demetrius. Like you see, it's above. My name is this, and I'm all of these things. But I'm really just figuring out who I am myself before I can like let the world know. But luckily for you, you get to see it. Like you get to see it as I'm figuring it out.
Well, and I think, I do love it when you cook. I love it when you talk shit about how good of a cook you are and like how much people wish they were in your home eating what, the most recent creation. One of the things that I always think about, I was like, man, if this guy ever goes down that tangent of cooking, the one thing I would say as like a big brother to you is that you can't have that perfect kitchen. Like, don't be running one of those cooking shows where everything's perfect. It's perfectly diced already. It's already like in these perfect containers. Like, I want to see the war that happens to create an incredible meal. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of, that's the cooking show I want to watch. So come out with that one.
Yeah, because it's not realistic. My My house doesn't look like that. Like when I'm cooking, it's crazy because I'm everywhere and I always forget. Like my mind's always moving, so I forget to put like everything. You know how they say cook it like clean as you cook. I'm so bad with cleaning as I cook because I'm like, oh, I want to try this, and now I'm watching. I just sit and watch the food cook because I'm so like excited about it, you know. Or then I'm hosting and I'm talking to people, and then I take the chicken out, and then I need to make the macaroni, you know, all of those things. So yeah, if I ever was to do like cooking book or cooking channel, it would be like that authenticness of it. Like that's not how real life looks. No one is interested in that either. You know, like people really want to know and see like, how can I make this in my house while I'm also babysitting a child?
Yeah, I love it. So a couple of things you are actively doing, and let me pivot to those. I mean, you matter. I mean, this idea, this global apparel and clothing line, the idea of that came from somewhere, and I'm trying to dig deep into where this possibly originated from. Can you tell us that story, and tell us what keeps you dropping stuff like you did this past month, where I mean, you sell out within like a day or two of everything you've created?
Well, like taught myself how to graphic design when I was really young, and that was my like media. That was like the only medium I knew besides writing to like express things or just like creative, like show what was in my mind. And at a point, I'm like, people aren't gonna buy these. Like you're not gonna buy this and print it out. So how can I make my art? How can I make a profit off of the art that I have, which is digital, like making it into a physical thing? And so the only thing I think of was shirts because everybody needs some form of clothing. And started like doing design and stuff like that. And so that became like a thing that I always knew I could communicate my ideas with. And so like fast forward to me like dealing with my depression, dealing with my like not really knowing like how to get it out or release. I was making like YouTube videos and Vines, like comedy skits. And that was just a form of me being able to like take the little bit of good I saw in there, like the way I viewed the world, and just like being able to like laugh at it, you know? And that kind of kept me afloat for a while, but that's just like putting a mask over it. And at a point, like that mask starts to wear off. And I needed to be honest with what I was dealing with. And it started at home. It started with me being honest, like my family, my mom, my brother, about what I was dealing with. But through me talking, it was very hard at first too, because like they didn't understand. And I'm like, I don't understand. I'm 14. I don't know how to explain to you what's going on. I'm just telling you this is how it feels. I don't know why. I don't know how to help myself. I don't know what to do. Y'all are the adults. Y'all help me. We can help each other as a team. But then I realized like after we, you know, like I communicated more and more and more, I kept talking. Because they were people that truly cared about me, I was able to have that clear line of communication, and I actually started to feel better. I started to feel like I wasn't so alone, at least in those four walls. And that's what let me know that the importance of like communicating not just the good things but the bad things was. And so later that translated into me not just making comedy skits, but me also be like, hey, I am doing horrible in school right now. I don't know if I'm going to college. I'm failing all of my classes. I'm on audit, which is like when you miss school so much that you have to perform a certain degree on your final to even get a credit for the class. But then, you know, the pressures of high school are just crazy because it's you're going to college. Like that's the feeling that it has. There's no other, like they don't talk to you about like, well, what if you don't want to do that? And especially the things I was doing, like it was so unheard of. I was on a social media app. At the time I was getting paid, you know, like to be on the app. But I can't tell somebody what that's gonna look like in 3 years. I don't know how that's gonna look. And to turn out, like Vine got deleted a year after I graduated high school, you know? And so I just felt all this pressure for it. I became like really, really, really depressed. But that senior year after high school is like some of the craziest feelings I've ever had because you just look around you and everybody you have spent the last 4 years with are either doing this, doing that, or like not doing anything at all. You kind of compare yourself. I never found myself comparing myself to these, like the people I knew, but I just felt like I had nothing to show for what I wanted to do. You know, I'm thinking like in 4 years where you got a diploma, like what will I show people I've been doing my time? And so I was just coming like really like down on myself for like things I was doing. I was like, in comparison to you going to college and going off and like, when I'm looking at it in the physical world, I just make these 6-second videos. Like what really is this? If someone takes this app away from me, what do I have to show for my work? And or like the internet crashed today, what do I have to show for all the things I've been doing? And I was like trying to like reassure myself, and I was like writing down like all of these things, like your art matters, your poetry matters, your words matter, your feelings matter. And then as I'm writing it down, like at the end of it, like I come back to it a few days later, I'm like, oh, these are like the makings of myself. Like,
yeah,
you matter. Like,
yes,
not just a part of you, like you matter.
Yes.
And then, like I said, the way I was able to communicate all of my feelings and like things I wanted, and thinking was with clothing. And so I just put on a t-shirt at first. I was just wearing it for myself, and then people liked it, so I sold it. And then I like hoodies a lot. Like even right now, I'm you know me. I'm very rarely without something long sleeve on. I don't think you've ever just seen me just t-shirt.
Hey, I want everybody to know, every time he walks into this firm, everybody's in blue suits and white shirt, and he's coming in sweats. Straight up sweats, baggy hoodie, rubbing his eyes. It's like noon, and I'm like, I'm getting ready to have lunch. He's like, I'm getting ready to have breakfast.
We get the job done, though. We get it done. Oh, man, that's funny. But yeah, like, so for me, hoodies are like a comfort thing, because like, say right now I put this hood on, you can't see anything but like my eyes, like I can kind of hide in it. Like the same what you do with a blanket, like on a cold day, you just kind of put the blanket on, it keeps you protected from outside. And that's kind of like the feeling I have in hoodies. So I did again, I made the hoodies for myself as it became like winter. And like my uncle had passed away, and I just was getting back to a very bad spot. And then people saw it, the hoodies, and they gravitated towards the hoodies even more, because that's when I put like my own like mantras on it, like the stuff I put in the sticky notes, like your mental health, your art, all these things. On the wrist, I feel weak but I know I'm strong. These are all like things that I told myself first before I ever told the world. And it just from there has been growing, because people realize and hopefully are like seeing how much stronger and better like you could be when you share the things that you thought made you weak.
And obviously this is not an uncommon reality.
Oh no, not at all.
For humanity, right? I mean, there's been this. I think about just the environment I grew up in. Boys don't cry, and feelings, like what are feelings, right? Like we grind, we're full of grit, and we're tough. I mean, we're like, hey, you know what? I mean, like, you think about like, I even think about how many times I used to like acknowledge my childhood crew as like, the knockaround gang. Like, yeah, this is what was, like what? We're supposed to be rough boys that are tough, that don't have feelings, that don't cry, that don't, the list. And then we become adults, and maybe even some of us get married, and maybe even some of us have children, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, man, this is screwed up. Like we are perpetuating a vicious cycle of insanity.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Right. And now all of a sudden you matter is something that I'm seeing everywhere. I'm seeing with celebrities, people with, they have a lot of pressure. I'm seeing corporate executives rocket, people with a lot of pressure. I'm seeing pro athletes. That. People with, a lot of visible pressure. And it's like, you see a lot of these very high profile, overly spoken about, overly glamorized type positions, roles, or realities in the world that have a lot of pressure on them. And you see a lot of the humans behind those roles and those responsibilities wearing, your clothing line. And there's probably a reason for that, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And that's my favorite part too, is like, it's like an unspoken language, like you see someone in a United hoodie, it's like either they're dealing with something, someone in their life is dealing with something, and it's their form of showing them support, or they just understand that someone is dealing with something. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not, like I don't make these hoodies to be like, oh, you're gonna wear this to the club. You might, but I wear my hoodie when I go to the mall and I have too much of a good day. And I see people doing the same thing, and it's like this is your comfort hoodie. This doesn't have to be the most stylish hoodie that you own. So and people choose to wear them. They're choosing to like almost like a sign of like a beacon of like someone else sees this. Even if you don't know the brand, like someone could literally not speak to you and walk past you and read that and just walk away feeling a little bit better. And someone also could know like everything that I stand for, see you, and now y'all are sparking a conversation about like the things they're going to do and things you go to do. And now you may either make a friend or you just either walk away from a conversation feeling a lot better. You know what I'm saying? Like conversations that you never could have with people because you don't know where their head at. Like this kind of like lets you know what side of the fence they stand on.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, are you? And we've never talked about this, but Robin Williams. Do you recognize that name, the actor?
Yeah. I love Robin Williams.
Man,
my grandma actually just told me. I didn't know this. She was like, "Yeah, you used to," because like, I haven't been able. I don't sleep well. We talked about this.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, you used to come over, and man, I don't know what you was probably like 3 or 4." And one of these days, your dad got Mrs. Doubtfire, and you used to love Mrs. Doubtfire. You used to just stay up every night. I want to watch Mrs. Doubtfire. I want to watch Mrs. Doubtfire. And I'm like, Grandma, as a kid, I like Mrs. Doubtfire. She's like, yeah. I'm like, I did not know that. I'm like, I thought I found that movie like later on in my like teenhood and like loved the movie. I'm like, but I love Robin Williams. She's like, yeah, you always love Robin Williams. I'm like, oh, I had no idea.
There's just always a reason for everything, right?
No,
there's always a reason for everything. I brought up his name because I thought about, there's this post I've seen, all over different, social media channels. I don't even know if they call that. Maybe just us old people call it social media channels, or these platforms, right? And on Instagram, one time I saw this post with the image of Robin Williams, and it really talked about how, sometimes the happiest people, man, on the outside, the people who you perceive as the happiest, the entertainers, the comedians, the people that lift and elevate everyone else in the moment, that make everyone else feel better in the moment, are people who are crying out saying, man, I just need some of that love myself. I just need a little bit of that TLC myself. Like what I'm doing for you, like, man, I wish someone would just do a little bit of that for me right now.
Most definitely. Yeah, I think like it just makes sense, because it's like to be so like deprived of that, it either turns you cold or you like, I don't want anyone ever to feel this feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like say like when people have like bad childhoods, like they either become a bad parent or they're like, my kids, I'm going to be so present for my child. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with the people who like feel so empty. Like they try to fill people up so much because they're like, look, I don't want you to, I love you so much that I don't want you to feel the same feeling I'm feeling. But it's like, you have to realize and like see the signs and like really talk to people and pay attention to them to realize like, oh, you're not doing okay. These jokes are kind of too dark. Something's going on with you, like things like that. But yeah, I definitely do agree with that as well. Like I said, like when I was dealing with stuff, the first thing that made sense to me was comedy.
Yeah, I gotta say, like when we start talking about these things, I start thinking about just the significance and importance of your surroundings, your environment, the people in your circle. We often talk about, hey, audit your circles, man. They're either, as my good friend Lauren Johnson. Lauren's one of the most brilliant, most wildly talented speakers, inspirers of humanity. She's hosting this insane event that I think either just happened or is coming up. I'm just overstimulated right now as we go to the holiday season. When you run a sales organization, you're focused on sales metrics at the end of the year. But Lauren is just an absolute diamond. And she always talks about being a fountain and not a drain for others. And man, that just sometimes is missing, right? Like other people just walking around saying like, man, no, I authentically want to be a fountain and not a drain for you. No matter what I'm going through, I want to give that to you.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. It's that, and it's crazy because you can feel it too when someone's like being a drain versus like pouring into you. You feel it. You literally feel it.
And hey, just so you know, as you get older, you definitely recognize it a lot quicker.
Yeah,
experience.
I've been going through that now. Even with me being young, it's like I've always been a lot more mature because of the situations I've had to deal with. That I just don't have the time for it. Like, like I can't afford anyone to knock me off of my rocker. It's different. It's different when it's me. It's different when like I'm off my A game because I'm tripping. But it's another thing when it's like, oh, you're the reason why I'm not focused. I can't afford that. You're the reason that I don't have any energy. I can't afford that because like it's not just me that depends upon me being okay.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I love I love that that's just consistently you, right? I mean, I love that that's just consistently you. And I think about some of the things that, sometimes I think we're very intentional about the content we put out there. And sometimes we're just kind of like, I just thought of this. I'm just going to blast this out, right? But I think about the root of Demetrius and this, thing that I saw at one point and Chad reminded me of, which is, hey, the purpose is to spread love and normalize the complexities of the human experience.
Oh, you're talking about
hey, if you put shit out there,
you did your research. You did your research.
Eyes in the sky. Hey, and you know this. Like I tell Ava and Atlas, I'm like, and for those of you that are listening for the first time, Ava is my beautiful 13-year-old daughter. Atlas is my beautiful 11-year-old son. I use the beautiful word to be the umbrella of everything they represent, not what they physically look like. And I always got eyes in the sky, man. You know that.
You're hilarious. Yeah, that's the whole thing, though. I think like our whole problem is that we're just so disconnected. Because of,
say more about that.
Like, like love to me is the strongest thing ever. Like just my love for things, my love for people kind of like is my driving force. Like I love my mother so much that I know I need to have myself together. I love my baby brother so much that I know I want to make sure he can be whoever he wants to be. I love my dad so much that I know I want him to be able to retire and be there for my brother. You know what I'm saying? Like all of those things, but like the love shouldn't just like it's unlimited. You know what I'm saying? Like just because I love my mother this much doesn't mean I can't love someone the exact same amount or more or less. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like I have this limited amount of love I can get to people. I tell strangers I love them. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it doesn't have to mean like, oh, I love you to the moon. I just love you. You know what I'm saying? I love you as a person. I love who you are. Like all of those things. And like, if we showed each other like more love, like genuinely, like didn't hide the things that we felt for each other, then we would be able to like carry that on to a thing. Because when you think about it, like when someone shows you hate, like when someone like ruins your day, you carry that energy and you take it, you either absorb it or you transfer it. And it keeps transferring. It keeps transferring. But if you like have this limitless love that you spread around to people, like they're either going to absorb it, so they're going to become better for it, or they're going to transfer it and transfer it and transfer it, and just keeps going around. It's like there's like people that like have like I've met for a second, and like I still remember our interaction just off of like them being there, them being like a good person to me, them standing up for me, like as a kid or as an adult, like all these things. And it's like that may have changed the whole trajectory of like how my day was going or how I viewed the world, like just things like that. And so then with normalizing the complexities of the human experience, that's just a very strong way of saying like we're all human, we all go through the same thing, just on like different planes. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a certain there's different struggles and different levels of the struggle, but the root of a lot of them are the same. We all are looking to be someone. Like, you know what I'm saying? We're all like looking to figure out exactly who we are, like what fulfills me, what's my purpose here. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because someone else's purpose is different doesn't mean like they're closer to it, doesn't mean there's not gonna be a day where they're like, man, do I actually love doing what I'm doing? How am I trapped in what I'm doing? Like, did I go to college and waste my time? Should I have went to college? Like, should I have got this mortgage with this house? Like, should I have got her that ring? Like, all of these things, like, should I have went a little easier on my son? Like, is that why my son doesn't talk to me? Like, things like that. There's so much like just common emotions because we have the same makeup, you know what I'm saying? But then you put us in different circumstances, and that's what like changes things. But at our root, we're all the same. And I think if we realize, like, when you shake away a lot of the things that like are variables that change, you would see like we're all so close to each other, and we're all so much more alike, and we're all so connected.
Damn. Okay. I'm gonna unpack that. One, Jennifer Harmon, I love you too, very much. You know that. Number two, I'm glad you got the mortgage because we're neighbors now. Number three, love. Describe what that is from an experiential perspective. If the person is someone that Demetrius Harmon loves. So if you love someone, what do they experience from you?
They experience my time. First and foremost, my time is the most important thing to me because I can't get it back. You know what I'm saying? Like, they experience my time in the fashion of me having conversation. It's never like I had a rush to get out the phone with you. I would talk to people I care about in the shower if they need me. You know what I'm saying? I will hop out the shower if they need me. You know, I will come over and be there for you. They experience every form of like every love language for me. Like, whatever they need from me is what they would get. You know, so like I think the one I do the most is acts of services. Like, you know, we talk about me cooking. I love cooking for myself, but
yeah,
there's always people, like, I don't always post them, but there's always a gang of people over. You know, like, that's like me. Like, let me make sure you eat something good. And like, let me make sure that you like are eating food that was prepared with love, because I feel like that makes a difference as well. Like, the energy you put into the food, you're digesting it.
100%.
Like, things like that. Gifts, of course, like my assistant, but he's like one of my best friends named Jawad. Like,
yeah.
When I realized that we were really good, because we went to high school together, when I realized we were like really good friends, I was in LA. I still didn't live here yet. We still were just like really good friends. We weren't even best friends or anything like that. Like, I didn't talk to him every day, but he was always kind to me. He was always cool with me. I think he needed a controller for his, he's a producer. So he needed like a controller. I think it was like $600. And I think he was still in high school. And I was just like, I just got it for him. Like, not Christmas, not anything. I just got it from him, showed up and dropped off at his house. But like things like that of like, okay, like, how can I help you get closer to your dreams? Like, things that you want to do, like things like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mom, like, trying to like think like, how can I help her? Like, my dad, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, showing up for him and like, you're tired? All right, cool. Like, I will help you with the baby. Or like, I love you so much. And like letting people know that every day. Like, I try my best to confirm like what that love means to my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether it's like you being there for celebrations, like being included. Because I like know what it feels like not to be included in things, or feel like you don't like your place in someone's life isn't valued. So I always try to like, when something go good for me, I'm like, this is not just like mine only. This is us. This is where exactly we're one. You know what I'm saying? So like, but I was raised like that though. You know, like I was raised to be like, this family is like, you're protected. And so like, once I realized like your family isn't just who you're born with, like you also can like, people come in. So whoever I look at and I'm like, this is my family and I like must do right by them. I must protect them at all costs. Like, I do my best to just make sure that if it's in my power, like I give them everything I got every day.
Samantha and I often talk about being someone's advocate. You know, what does it look like to be someone's advocate? You know, to be somebody who holds them up in prayer even when they don't know it, when they, you are pouring out positivity about them in rooms and conversations they'll never be in. Somebody who takes that phone call and says, hey, I got to take a shower, but I'm on the line with you right now. Right. And what does it really look like to be someone's advocate? I love the fact that you mentioned I can love my mother to this unbelievable extent of like infinity and beyond, and I can still give that same amount of love to someone else, and that doesn't shortchange my mother.
Yeah, it's like, like say if you were a billionaire, you can't get two people individual billions of dollars. You have an amount, but with love, it's you literally, like, you can't measure it, you can't scale it. You can give everybody everything you want to give them. It's just a matter of how does this person want to be loved, and just figuring that out and then meeting the requirements. Why are you looking at me like this?
Because I love it, man. It's dope. I mean, it's just, like, look, I usually have conversations only about business. I've not even asked you a business question.
Would you like to ask me a business question?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I should.
But these things I guess they can be applied to it too,
Well, it's everything, right? I mean, we talk about it. I mean, look, we all say, or many people say the right thing. Like, oh, you've got to take care of yourself first before you can take care of someone else. But how many of us are really doing that? Yeah, right. And it takes a tremendous amount of courage. You've said this on many interviews, and look, I adore you for it. I mean, are you watching these interviews? Yeah. I'm like, this guy is talking about how, like, hey, if I can talk about the good stuff, why can't I talk about the bad stuff? Right. Yeah. If I can celebrate the wins, why can't I, speak about the losses and the pain and probably, the adversity of that reality. I think it's so powerful to encourage, enable, and empower others to say what they're really thinking. As you know, I walk around the floor and I walk around meetings and I walk around buildings and I walk around interacting with people. And it's like, hey, how are you doing? And everybody's like, oh, good. Why is good always the answer? I'm like, no, it sucks. I gotta say, I had a bunch of meetings. I took them from home this morning. I walk upstairs, showered and ready to go with my You Matter sweatshirt, my hoodie. I think I'm going to say goodbye to my wife. My wife is often running off with her day. And I look at our friend Lisa, who helps run our home, and she's like, no, Samantha left. And I'm like, that sucks. And, I'm like, why does everybody always, like, you don't have to say good.
You don't want to infringe on anybody else, That's
say like that. Go deeper on that.
Like, it's that feeling of, like, I don't want to be a burden. Because you're not, because the thought is, like, when you're meeting with a stranger, like you're speaking to a stranger, or even somebody you see, like, in class, like, how you doing? You don't really mean, how am I doing? You just, it's the same thing as hello. But then it's like, think about it. Imagine if I actually am, not saying you specifically, but I actually am asking, how are you? Like, I played a game with my friends. I played a video game with my friends a lot. And one of them got on. He's like, hey, y'all. And I was like, how you doing? And he's like, who just asked me that all proper? I'm like, me. I'm like, I'm serious. Like, how you doing? And he's like, oh, I just chilling, like, had work, yada, yada. Kind of was a bad day. And I'm like, oh, we on the game now, though. At least we're here. Like, things like that. But I really care. But it's like, you got to recognize, if he just said, okay, I recognize, like, how many people probably ask him that blanketed question, So then I go to, like, oh, how was your day? When I say, how you doing? Or, like, how has your day been? It's like, kind of forces you to get out of the instant response of just good,
Is there real value? Is there real value in being able to verbally articulate the issues that we're struggling with without asking someone to try to solve them for you. Is there value?
Yes.
Expand.
Yes. Oh,
why?
My God. Anytime I'm talking to anybody about the problems I'm dealing with, I don't need you to solve them. I don't need anything from you. I'm just talking because I've been talking to myself all day about it. I don't even need you to say anything. This is the form of venting. This is what I need. And that's the thing too. Like I tell people a lot, like talk to yourself, like verbally, just because it gets it out. If you're just thinking in your head, it doesn't make sense. But when you like speak it verbally, it's kind of like writing it down. And you kind of make a lot more sense of it. But you should you don't have to expect people to solve a problem. And if you're the person listening, you shouldn't always feel like this person is talking to me because they need answers. Maybe they just want to be heard.
Dude, I mean, that is the single greatest like human desire and craving is to be listened to and understood, which look, because Samantha's going to listen to this in a week. Like she knows that I have, I'm like the Major League Baseball player that bats 200 at that, right? Mm-hmm. Like high enough to stay on a team, low enough to sometimes be questioned. But here's what I will say. I really appreciate how candid and transparent you're being about that, because I struggle with the fact that I'm like you. And I think that's like one of our bonds, being decades apart and having just met in since my move to Michigan. But like, I love people, man. I want good for everybody. I'm not malicious. I'm not malicious.
You want to help.
I care. I'm not trying to solve people's problems all the time. But when I say, hey, how you doing? Like you actually being authentic in that moment, that doesn't burden me. A burden is, hey, I've not talked to you in 10 years. Can you pay this bill for me?
Yeah, that's different.
That's a completely different, that's completely different experience. So I really appreciate what you said. And I want to clarify, like to me, if we're walking around and we're saying, hey, how are you? And the type of human we are, it's because we really want to know how you are. And you know what like a burden is, or shortchanging us is lying about how you are.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's the thing too. It's like, it's you can't ever pressure anyone talking about things because it's all on their pacing. But it'd be like, come on, I know you better than that. I see your whole energy off. You usually walk in here and give me a big hug. You came in here, you didn't even take your shoes off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm noticing all of these things.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't ask you how you doing because I'm just talking. Something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like things like that, man. But yeah, I think too, like with me, and probably you too, like I'm solution oriented. I don't care about the problem. I don't care to talk about the problem way more. You're trying to dissect the problem, why the problem is the problem, how the problem got here. I'm trying to figure out how to get that solved. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm always first to like to jump into action. But with that being said, a lot of times when it's like more like intimate relationships, whether it's your mom, whether like people who actually are in your life, when they just need to be heard, it's like you want the best for them, so you don't want to like it's hard to watch and be like, you need to figure this out for yourself, or you don't even need me to fix something. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're in like a position of like certain things that they need done, you could just handle yourself quickly, but it's like you can't interrupt their journey. And they're not talking to you sometimes to even like have you do that. They're just talking to you for you to be an ear. And it's like, would you rather do all these things that they didn't ask you to do, tire yourself out, or just lend them your ear and not take like 10% of your energy? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And they walk away feeling fulfilled, and they don't feel like they owe you. No one ever feels like they owe you anything for you being an ear to them. No one ever feels like they're just grateful. They're like, I'm so appreciative that you're here. You know what I'm saying? But once you get all the politics of like, I paid for this and did this for you, and it's like you're counting favors. But it's never too hard to like just stop speaking and listening to people. But when you talk, you can't hear. anything but yourself. So it's like you just gotta be quiet and let the person talk.
Yeah, when you just said counting favors, man, I mean, that really hit home for me. I'm going to digress for a second. I mean, Ava, and she's a Meech fan, and she came home from our Sunday service on a week where I could not attend. Samantha and I had a divide and conquer. I can't even remember now. I am getting old. I think Atlas had a game, and so Atlas and I went one way, and Samantha and Ava went a different direction. They went to Sunday service, and she came home, and we always talk about it. We always talk about service, like what was the message, what were the nuggets, what do we take away? Is there something we can, do better as a family, individuals? And she talks to me about how our pastor Danny Cox, who's a just blessing. That's what I'll call Danny, a blessing in this world. And Danny spoke on the fact that when we are blessed, we have this opportunity to be a blessing for others. Mm-hmm. And so, when you mentioned about, counting favors, I always I get so tore up in that type of like dialogue or that type of perspective that sometimes folks take, because I'm like, well, gifting things to others, it really is a selfish act, right? We give, and a lot of times it makes us feel good to give. And so we're giving because we know it makes us feel good. And I also think about like, well, if I continue to be blessed and receive these blessings, it's my responsibility to be that fountain, not the drain, as Lauren Johnson says it. And it's my responsibility to be a blessing for others. I'm blessed, and therefore I must be a blessing for others. And I just say it.
I was going to say that this is a thing I thought of, because like I'd say that too, like you're blessed, so you bless others. Or like you weren't blessed and given all these blessings to keep them to yourself. Just take what you need and give what you don't. But in Islam, like one of their pillars, I forget what it's called, but like they are meant to like give money away. Like there's specific percentage I think of like of their earnings that they intend to donate. Like they always donate. You know what I'm saying? It's literally a pillar in their faith to help. You know what I'm saying? I just always thought that was very like interesting and honorable. Like even when I would donate to like overseas into like relief funds, the option is like, what is this donation for? Is this general donation? I can't remember the name of it, but then there's a other option of like, this is going towards that type of donation, like towards that pillar. And I just always thought that was interesting that like in their faith is built in that like, like kind of vague. Some people kind of vaguely go over things and like, like look after each other. But this is like, no, we're like today and now you give this to people who need it always. And like that's, if you consider yourself Muslim, then you follow this. You know what I'm saying? That was interesting.
Let's finish with a little bit of gratitude, can we?
Yeah, of course. I'm always grateful.
All right. So I want to give a quick shout out myself. I want to give a quick shout out to Mr. David McCullough, Inception, the First Mental Health Gym. My Samantha and I mean, we are religiously obsessed about the content he's putting out. My friend from my days in Chicago, Ryan Mundy, Alchemy Health. Again, so similar to what I see David putting out. These two guys are they're Jedis. They're not fountains. These guys are, I don't know. This is like where the dam bursts and the water is out of control and it just takes over an entire civilization type of pouring into others. And I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge that because, for me, Meech, you do something similar as those two guys. The more you continue to push the envelope on these types of conversations that take a lot of courage to have, and the more I know that, we got to just like smother and cover you with love because you're doing a lot of hard work. You're doing a lot of hard work for us. You're the one pushing the envelope. You're the one bringing up these discussions. You're the one challenging people to get comfortable being courageous and having a conversation around things that are just typically not welcomed. Words like burden. I mean, it pains me when I think that someone in this planet is thinking that they're a burden to others. It's just difficult for me to accept that. And so I'm just really proud of you. I mean, you're an incredible friend. You're an incredible human. I am your advocate, and you know that. And so I wanted to make sure I shouted out to those two guys before I gave you a bunch of gratitude right now.
Thank you. Yeah. It's crazy though, because like people, including myself, like you feel like a burden sometimes. You're like, I don't want to be a burden to you. Like that word is heavy. To be a burden, like a person, think of a person being a burden, but it's true. And it's like, if something like that is simple, because that thought crosses my mind all the time. It's like, oh, I just did it myself because I didn't want to burden you with it. It's like people think even worse things and feel even worse things. But it's like, it just takes those steps to be able to like honestly communicate that, you know what I'm saying? And break that down, that feeling down, and like reassure people that you're not that, you know what I'm saying? Can I give a business tip that was given to me when I was in high school?
Yeah, I want you to wrap it up.
I'm not good at wrap ups, but I have a teacher. I didn't do good in high school because I didn't care about the classes.
Dearborn High.
I was Dearborn High. I was like, these classes are stupid. But the classes I did good at were like econ, business 101, business management, business planning, like all those things. Personal finance. But I think my business teacher, his name is Mr. Yoder. He's my favorite teacher ever. He was also my computer teacher. But he did like real estate and all these things like on the side, but he also just like taught at the school. And so like I was a kid in school that would just sleep because like, what are we doing here? You know, like I'm smart enough to pass all of these classes, but like I don't care to hear what you're talking about because you're just gonna hand us like some worksheet. I'm gonna look at the book and find it. And so Mr. Yoder class is a little bit different because it was like things I was personally like doing. I was literally running a business. I literally like, you know what I'm saying, at the same time. And so what he told me, and like it had nothing to do with business, it was more so like life and like finances, of course. Was like never lend anyone any amount of money that you aren't comfortable with never receiving back. And I just always kept that with me. So it's like if but by the chance that you do not pay me this money back, which has happened a lot to me, am I okay with never seeing that again? If I can say yes, then all right. And if you do pay me back, cool. But if you don't, I already expected that you never was going to give it back to me, and there are no hard feelings. Probably never going to give you any more money. But I saved myself the issues of just like being upset with you because I never gave you more than I was okay with.
I love that you said that. You know, I had an incident right out of college where I had a falling out with a childhood friend, and he took a few things that weren't his, and I was furious. And you never met the version of me that's your age now, but I was 255 pounds and an absolute wrecking machine into every room I walked in. And I was at one of those points where I wanted to be like a demolition crew to this human. And my older brother, Alex, who literally is like, you know, like a father to me, just that influence in my life as a child in my younger age, he said to me, you know, he did you a favor because you'll never allow him to be that close to you again, so that situation will repeat itself.
Most definitely.
And now you know who he is.
And that's the thing too, because it's like, imagine if that never happened and he showed his true colors to you right now. You would have lost way more. You know, much more would be at stake.
Yeah. All right. So, hey, look, actor, writer, poet. I didn't say model earlier, but I guess I'll give that to you since you have a clothing and apparel line. Creative director.
It was
my guy. Go ahead.
Maybe cuss. I was about to cuss. I'm not gonna cuss. I be modeling other stuff too.
What?
I be modeling other stuff too.
I know you do, But I gotta give you a hard time.
Stop playing with me. I was in Milan.
This how it works. I mean, you know how painful it is to love people. Bonjour. You're experiencing the pain of love.
There's no pain in love. Those things do not go together. What they do, they're directly. You know what's crazy? Before we leave, this was not a business podcast. I'm happy that we changed the whole format up because we were just talking about like humanality. I don't know if that's where I just made it up. I think so. But, you know, the whole purpose of the things that we deal with, and it's crazy that no one thinks about this. Duality is the word to explain the entire human experience.
Say more.
You know what I'm saying? Right now, there's so many twos. Everything is in twos or fours, like, and things like that. And so right now it's daytime. It's going to be night. The sun, the moon, they're perfect. They fit together, like those things. There's love. There's hate. There's light. There's dark. There's all of these things. But like, if there was just light, you would not know what dark was. Or if there only was dark, you wouldn't know what light is. You know what I'm saying? So like, because of the dark, you appreciate it when it's light. Because of the summer and it was really hot, you appreciate it when it's winter. But because of the winter, you're like, I can't wait for it to be hot. And there's just so much duality in it. And it's like, we want to live life without the bad things, but you can't because you wouldn't care and appreciate the good things so much. You know what I'm saying? If you never have been in a bad relationship before, not to say that you need one, but if you never like felt the feeling of like, this is not what true love is. When you find like true love, you're like, oh my God, it's amazing. And so it's like, it's the yin and the yang of things. Like there's always a little bit of like bad and the good, and there's always a little bit of the good and the bad because they need each other.
The Sigma, man. Capturing it. Meech, it's always good being with you, man. I mean, look, at the end of the day, there are so many gifts you have. I hope you have one of the longest runways ever, man. I mean, you are definitely a part of the rising tide that's elevating the other boats. I'm thankful for your friendship and the relationship we have. I'm thankful for this conversation. I think this is like conversation 1.0 of like 50.
Yeah, most definitely.
I mean, at some point I got to talk to you about the business. So we're going to have to come back for a 2.0 if you agree. And at the end of the day, man, nothing but love for you and your family, for Jennifer, for your siblings, your father, your business, and all the people that it impacts and influences. For those of you catching this now, Demetrius Harmon, Meech, actor, writer, poet, model, creative director, founder of You Matter University, scholarships, $5,000-$10,000 scholarships to young, deserving young adults here in the Michigan and greater Detroit community. Detroit's own Dearborn High, Demetrius Harmon. Love you, brother.